Hey everybody, it is Saturday night and we're going to take a trip around the world. I feel like I just did an around the world update not too long ago, and I really honestly don't feel like a lot has changed since the last time I did a video. But it's Saturday night and I really feel like I'm at a loss for any topic of video to shoot tonight. I'm not really going to be down here doing any work in the room. All I'm really going to do is throw a bunch of food in the tanks and then get back out of here. But I do like to shoot a video every day, and I do like to keep everybody abreast of what's going on here in the fish room. So tonight we're going to do around the world, but again, don't know how long it's going to be, don't know what it's really going to entail. I really kind of feel like we're just going to sort of rehash what I talked about in my last video. So we're starting here at my 29 miscellaneous, where we always do. Nothing really to speak of here. I've just been kind of maintaining it. I did a water change not too long ago, filter change. We got the glass looking nice and clean. I believe I spoke about all of that in my most recent video, and we haven't done anything since. While we're sitting here for a moment looking at my little Bolivian ram in there, who's anxiously waiting for dinner, I can say definitively now that I have lost the Bolivian ram in my office tank. If you follow along regularly, you'll know I've had one that's been sick for a while. I've been treating it with various medications in hopes that I could bring it around. And the other day, I kind of suspected it was gone. I couldn't find it. It looked really thin and just couldn't find it anywhere. And this morning, I found its remains half decomposed in the back of the tank. It was pretty far gone, but it was very clearly still the Bolivian ram. And so I removed it from the tank and flushed it this morning. So it is definitely gone. But this one still looks good, looks nice and healthy, lots of color, good activity, always ready to eat, always interacting with the other fish down there on the bottom of the tank. Really cool fish, really enjoy them. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that other tank, whether I'm going to put another Bolivian ram in there. I might try my hand at a German blue. I've never had much luck with them. I don't know if it's my water or what, but we'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll put some keyhole cichlids in there. I've got options now that I've got some space available. So at any rate, this is not about the office tank. This is supposed to be a look around the world here in the fish room. My Grammie Tank, it's still looking a little bit grungy. I'm getting a little bit of stuff on the glass, but not a lot. I am definitely seeing the rubber lip pleco and the hillstream loach come out more frequently. And if you look at the glass here, and if you look at the algae on the glass, you'll see all those weird little marks and patterns. That's all scrape marks from the fish that are in there scraping on the glass and keeping it clean. So they are doing a pretty good job of keeping the tank clean. My roots in my water sprite there are not growing a bunch of the green funk. Now if we start really looking closely and getting up into the surface area where the fish can't really get to and where there's a ton of light, we will probably see a little more green grungy growth, although it doesn't look like it. I do have duckweed in this tank now, apparently. I swear that stuff gets out of these tanks at night and walks around the room and infects other tanks. Once upon a time, someone told me, oh, you don't want duckweed in your tanks. And I said, oh, yeah, I like duckweed. Duckweed's pretty. And they said, trust me, man, you don't want duckweed. And I said, oh, yeah, I like duckweed. And they said, all right, there's some duckweed. And I really wish I had listened to them all those years ago. It's not a big deal, but once you get duckweed, you've got duckweed. And it'll find its way into all of your tanks. And it is really something you've got to maintain. It will cover the surface of your tanks. It can mess with your gas exchange. All sorts of stuff, not to mention blocking light, blocking oxygen. So duckweed can be a little bit of a nuisance and a little bit problematic, but not that big a deal. I just wasn't aware that I had it in this tank now, but apparently I do. So on with the plant growth, we've got a new spike right there of Anubias coming out, and you can see how nice and good that looks. That's starting to get cleaned up now that we've got the Siamese algae eaters in here. I know that when they're full grown like this, they're in here somewhere. I've seen them darting around a minute ago. When they're full grown like this, they're not as effective as they are when they're young as far as eating the algae goes, but they are still pretty effective at eating algae. And the most important thing is they eat the kinds of algae other fish don't. So even if they only eat a little bit of it, if they're eating it at all, then they're keeping on top of that hair algae, which grows in a lot of my tanks. And so those Siamese algae eaters remove that, and it makes way for the other fish, the live bears and the rubber lips and so on and so forth, can then make light work of everything else. There's one of those algae eaters lying on that leaf back there. I don't know why I haven't been able to see it. So that's the big fat one, I believe. I've got two of them. They're both pretty large. Oh, the other one's right next to it. And no, that was not the big fat one. The big fat one is on that leaf. And you can just make it out through the roots there. They're both lying on separate leaves facing away from each other. I wonder if they've had a little tiff or something. Not talking to each other anymore. Anyway, moving on. This video is already shaping up to be a lot longer than I was expecting it to be, but that's par for the course for me. T-bar tank, I will say not a lot going on in here as far as water changes or anything. I did do a water change in gravel vac. Well, I say gravel vac. It's more of a superficial vac. I don't really stir the gravel up too much, but I do try to remove a lot of that pleco poop. It builds up pretty quickly in this tank. I've got that big rubber lip pleco. I'm sorry, not rubber lip pleco in here. It's a gold spot pleco, and I don't even see it now. But it's in there, trust me, and it's big, and it makes a lot of waste. And so I'm constantly in there trying to vac all that out and keep the tank clean. So other than that, no big deal. Not a lot going on. You can see some new growth on the Anubias. You can even see a little flower, sort of proto-flower starting there. They never fully bloom while it's fully submerged like this, but the little flower heads do start. And you can see I've got green new growth on that, and I've got new growth coming out of this tip, and I've got new growth coming out of here with the flower. So the Anubias is doing really well in this tank. I'm probably going to have to cut it back again at some point. There's another one of my little Siamese algae eaters in this tank. I really, really love those fish. In all the years I've been keeping fish, I only sort of discovered those within the last few months. And boy, I wish I'd had them over the years. I always thought rubber lips were good at keeping a tank clean, but they got nothing on these Siamese algae eaters. I really, really like what they've been doing with my tanks. So everybody in this tank is still doing okay, just chilling out. I've had no more issues with my T-bar cichlid there. I was getting some little spots around the head. I think it was hole in the head disease or lateral line erosion disease, whatever you call that. But got on top of the water changes a little more frequently, cut back on feeding a little bit, and everything seems to have worked out fine. We've gotten rid of any of those little spots and lesions that were developing on the head and haven't really come back. So my T-bar is looking good, the angelfish are looking fine, everything's doing okay in this tank. This is my tank of the moment. This is the tank that I'm currently back in love with. This is my, just calling it my 40 breeder now. It's gone through a few iterations over the years, although the scape has not changed at all. The stock in this tank has changed a bit over the years. My regular viewers, of course, know that. I've talked about this tank many times and told the story. Recently, it was just overrun with the green hair algae. It just looked like the swamp in there. I mean, it was just gross, stringy, green hair everywhere. If you actually opened the lid and looked on the top, you could see almost mats of the stuff floating, literally like it was swamp water in there, or like the scummy ponds you see in late summer. It was starting to develop the hair algae to that extent. And I put 4 of these young Siamese algae eaters in there, and within days we were seeing a reduction in all that hair algae, and that's exactly what I was talking about a little bit ago. None of the other fish really eat that hair algae, but as soon as those Siamese algae eaters, who apparently love the stuff, started cleaning that out of the way, it left room for all my other little cleaning type fish. Like you can see that little rubber lip pleco there. Look how clean the wood is now. Look how clean the rocks are. Look how clean the leaves of the plants are. Everything in here has now been cleaned up. And it's all thanks to putting these Siamese algae eaters in there and having them sort of pave the way, or sort of unpave the way and get rid of everything that was already there. And that let everybody else do their job. And now this tank is just looking fantastic. I know I've said this before in recent videos, probably in the last Round the World update video I talked about this, but I'm just so happy with it. It looks so good right now. This is the way I've wanted this tank to look for so long, and I've just fought and fought and fought with that algae in there, trying to keep this tank looking good. And I finally got it there. I've got it nice and brightly lit the way I want it. Sorry, that just annoys me when that cloth on top moves out of the way and you can see that bright spot of light shining out in the video there. It just kind of wrecks the view for me. So again, I'm just absolutely loving the way this tank looks right now, and the only thing I'm considering adding to it at this point would be some more of those Praecox rainbow fish, or these little dwarf neon rainbow fish. I'm down to 2 of them. I might restock with more of them. I do have access to them, but they're kind of expensive and they don't seem to last very long, so not really sure if we're going to do that or not. Anyway, moving on to my 125 gallon native tank. I don't really want to talk a lot about this tank right now. It is in the process, at least in my mind, of being deconstructed. I will be getting in here one of these days. I thought about doing it today just as a spur of the moment, something to do, but I wound up working on my kayak all day. I got a new kayak, and I've been putting foot-controlled rudder pedals in, and I've been putting my battery box and all kinds of good stuff. So my new kayak is coming along nicely. The result is, though, that I did not do anything to this tank. But very soon, you're going to start seeing the fish in this tank diminish. I'm not necessarily going to clean them all out at once, but if I can get in there and scoop a few out nice and easy before they get on to me, and start hiding because they know what's up, I'll take a few out, and then maybe a few days later I can take a few more out, something like that. But I really want to get rid of the fish in this tank with a few exceptions. Probably this guy right here, that shiner with those orange fins. I don't know why, but I just really like that shiner a lot. And then, of course, I do have a pleco in this tank as well, and I believe the pleco will probably stay in this tank. And maybe my tilapia. Not sure what to do about the tilapia. It has sentimental value at this point, but I don't know if it will work in the tank the way I want to do it. I've actually been thinking more about it, and I got an idea of what I want to do with this tank. And if I can pull it off, and if I know me, I can pull it off. I pulled that waterfall off. It took a little while, but I finally got that waterfall looking like I imagined it would look one day. And so I've had some visions of what I think I can make this tank look like, and I'm really excited to get started on that. Maybe like a late summer into the winter type project. But if I do it, as I've said before, whenever I'm dealing with a native type aquarium like this, then it's got to be done in the, it can't truly be a winter project unless maybe I'm just on the mechanical stuff over the winter, and then I can start stocking it in the springtime or something. But there's not a lot I can do nature-wise, fish or plants or anything like that during the winter months. So this is either going to be a late summer, early autumn project, which I'm hoping, or it'll just get pushed over till next year. But either way, got to thin the herd out a little bit here. I just got way too much bioload in this tank, and it's crazy overstocked. Those sunfish are still growing, and, just time to do something with this tank. So look forward to that. We will be making some changes coming up in the near future. I'm not going to talk about my snail tank. That's just a tank I breed snails in. And by the look of some of my other tanks, you'd think I breed snails in them too. This is my 40 breeder purple spotted gudgeon tank. I'm just looking for the gudgeon. It's usually in there somewhere. Well, it's always in there somewhere. It's not like it gets out and goes for a walk. But I don't see it. I do see a lot of snails, though. I'm really going to have to get in there and start doing something about that. I normally collect up the snails and feed them to my puffer fish, which we'll be seeing here momentarily. And I've got a few tanks that have some loaches in there, and I also throw the snails in for the loaches. The loaches absolutely love snails, and you will never have a snail problem in a tank with loaches. In fact, I collect them up and throw snails into my tanks with loaches, and you couldn't possibly keep on top of it. If you wanted snails in the tank, you couldn't do it. And that goes for larger snails too. You put a mystery snail in there, and they will just harass a mystery snail to death every time it tries to come out of its shell. There he is. He's sitting right there in the cave. Got his back to us. He's not talking to us either. So this cave contains my rubber lip pleco. That line right through the middle of the cave right there is the rubber lip pleco. I don't know why he's kind of propped up in midair like that. That, of course, is my purple spotted gudgeon, and down in that little cave right there underneath all those roots is where my South American bumblebee catfish lives. And I have seen it. I do see its little face sticking out fairly regularly now, which is a change, but it is in there and it is still doing well, so I'm glad about that. But other than a bunch of plants in this tank, it's really not an exciting tank and not a lot to look at. More of an aquatic garden. I'm almost starting to think about it as a grow-out tank for my water sprite, because I do need to get in here and thin some of the water sprite out. And, of course, duckweed. I got duckweed in this tank, too. So I need to get in there and start clearing some of that out. So remember, I do sell my aquatic plants. I do sell the water sprite, and I will say right now, you might get some duckweed coming with it if you do get a water sprite from me. I'm not going to lie, there's probably going to be some duckweed stuck to some of it because I've got duckweed everywhere. So moving on, have a look here at my 125 gallon Pseudos sort of African themed tank. Did a water change, got the glass cleaned down on this one not too long ago, got in there, trimmed up the plants. I removed a ton of the water sprite out of this tank. This tank, I believe, does not yet have any duckweed contaminating it, but that's only a matter of time because it gets everywhere, like I said. So, again, not much to talk about. I just removed a bunch of the plants. Again, check down below for my email. I never did finish that thought. If you're interested in the aquatic plants or anything, my email will be down below. You can contact me and we'll talk about it. I've got Java Fern and Water Sprite pretty much all the time, but every now and again I get a little odd and end, something or other. I do have some Temple Plant right now, and I also have some Anubias right now. One piece of Anubias, and I still have some of this Java Fern. Again, I don't know the species, but whatever this Java Fern is right here, if you'll see these little tiny babies developing on the tips. I have about a half a dozen of them that are about an inch long, with little bits of roots developing on them, sort of like this little one right here. And for a limited time, if you do get some Water Sprite and Java Fern, you know, just get a big old mixed bag of plants from me, I will put one of those in there too, and you'll get that sort of Java Fern, whatever that stuff is. But I really like it. I just don't know the name of it. Otherwise, nothing really to talk about in this tank. I am still waiting for some rainbow fish. I talked to Mike, the owner down at House of Tropicals in Glen Burnie, and he has his eye out for me. He understands that this tank has a full-grown tenopoma in it, and that putting little baby rainbow fish in this tank would not be a very good idea. And so we're going to try to get some rainbow fish that are already a little more grown out, and we're going to try to get some rainbow fish that are a little more interesting than just the common ones you find around you know, at the big chain pet stores or whatever. So we're going to see if we can't find something a little more exciting than that. So hopefully within the next week or two, we'll be seeing some new rainbow fish coming around and coming here into my 125 gallon tank. My snakeskin gourami is still doing well in here too, as I expected. I've had a snakeskin gourami in this tank before, and other than health issues with the gourami itself, there were never any issues between other fish or territoriality or aggression or anything like that, so I wasn't too worried about that. My experience with gouramis, though, is they're very prone to swim bladder issues, and so it's just a matter of time. We'll see if we don't develop some swim bladder issues with that one too. Moving on to my 20-gallon Angelfish tank. This tank is looking really good. It still has the air stone in it. The treatment is finished. I've just never gotten around to pulling the air stone out of there. Again, it's summertime. I've been out on my kayak. Again, I got a brand new kayak, so I've really been out and enjoying that one a lot and spending as much time doing that as I can. And as a result, you know, this time of year I tend to do a lot less down here in the fish room. So my new diamond tetras, all 5 of those that I bought, are still doing well and looking amazing. I do need to get that air stone out of there because I hate air stones in my tanks. And it's done its duty. I put it in there while I was treating with ChemiClean. It kills off the growth in there by way of oxidation. It oxidizes all of that stuff, and as a result, it uses up a lot of oxygen out of the tank, and you need to have a very, very thorough and vigorous gas exchange to allow that oxygen to get back in the tank and to allow all the CO2 and everything to get out of the tank. And by having an air stone in there like that, it accommodates that, you know, vigorous gas exchange. When you put an air stone in there, remember, you're not adding oxygen to the tank. You're not oxygenating your tank, unless, of course, you have it hooked up to an oxygen, you know, tank. But if you're just got an air stone in there and you got an air pump, you are facilitating gas exchange. You are not oxygenating your water. You are simply allowing for a more vigorous gas exchange, and then that way, if your tank needs more oxygen, it will be able to get it through that gas exchange. So, very important part of the process when you're treating with ChemiClean or any of those oxidizing type treatments. So other than that, not a lot to talk about. I do need to get in there and kind of finish it up and do my final water change, wipe the glass down, that sort of thing. My quarantine tank has now just become sort of a secondary snail breeding tank. This is honestly the tank that I've been going in and collecting the snails out of to feed Butterbean. And occasionally, as I said, I throw some of those snails in there to feed my loaches. But my quarantine tank is back down to the 2 resident guppies. They just live in this tank just to keep some biology in there. And, you know, obviously with the snails and the bioload, I'm never going to have to worry about cycling this tank. So it's not necessary to keep those little guppies in there. But that's where they are, and they've been in there for quite a long time now. And as far as I'm concerned, that's just their home. So I've always got those 2 little guppies in my quarantine tank. And right now I got a bunch of snails. I really need to get in there tonight and start cleaning some of those snails up and get that taken care of. So moving on to my 40-gallon, another 40 breeder. I like these tanks. That's a good size tank for me. And there's Butterbean making an appearance right there. This is my 40 breeder Brackish tank, although at the moment I am doing a bit of an experiment with the salinity, and we are not technically in brackish conditions anymore. I have reduced the salinity so that we are down to just below the threshold of what would be considered brackish. That orange in the back there is one of my orange sailfin mollies. Not really sure why it's just chilling on the bottom like that. And I saw the other one up here somewhere. There's the other one right there. So maybe they're probably doing, you know, maybe wanting some salt back in the water. The mollies do better in the brackish water. And honestly, Butterbean, the figure 8 puffer there, should be in brackish water as well, or at least that's what I've been told. And that's kind of why I'm doing the experiment. He had some lesions and white marks and stuff on him, and I wasn't really sure if it had anything to do with the longevity of just being in brackish water all the time, year after year. I've had him for about 6 years now, and it's just been in brackish water the whole time. And it's been fairly stable. I never really shifted the salinity in this tank around, other than maybe a little point or two. And it's always just been brackish water. And where these fish live in the wild, they actually don't live in brackish water. They live in very hard water, and they swim out into brackish water, and at tide changes, you know, the water might get a little saltier and stuff like that. But they don't actually just live in full brackish water all the time in the wild. And why they do better in brackish water in the aquarium is a bit of a mystery to me. I'm not 100% sure, but I've always heard that. I've always read that. Everyone always says that they do better in brackish water and being kept in brackish water and so on and so forth. And so I've kept this in brackish water for all the years I've had it. And as those lesions began developing, I began wondering, maybe just shifting the water around, maybe even making it more salty or something might help. I didn't think that would help with my plants, but I thought it might help with Butterbean. And then I did have some people suggest lowering the salinity, reducing the salinity, and I thought I would give that a shot. And so that's what we're doing, and he looks better. Other than his mad pacing, because he's, you know, having a little bit of a hissy fit because I'm not feeding him right now. He thinks I'm standing in front of him and it's feeding time. I should be feeding him. And it is indeed feeding time, and I should indeed be feeding him, but we're going to finish up this video before I feed him. But you can see those little white marks. He's still got them, but they are way, way reduced from what they used to be. So I don't know if it's been the reduction in salinity or not, but as long as nobody seems to be suffering and my plants are looking good, I'm going to not worry about keeping the salinity way up, and I'm going to stay right on that bottom end, you know, low end of the threshold of where it actually becomes brackish water. So moving on, last but not least, oh no, we are started here. I'm getting myself confused. I'm thinking about doing the waterfall tank, but we've already gone 24 minutes, and so I'm not going to do the waterfall tank tonight. We can actually end it up just by looking at it. I originally thought this was going to be a much shorter video, and I thought we could just do the waterfall tank in addition to the rest of the room. But I don't think so now that we've gone 25 minutes already. So let's just get the lights on here. Get them all fired up. Give everybody a quick look at it. Still haven't done anything with my little tank down here. That's, you know, mental project that's on hold right now. We'll get to that when we get to it. I will do a quick update on this one. You can see that the male flagfish that had the one eye bugged out of its head. It's still bugged out a little bit, but it is getting better. And I'm convinced that that's got nothing to do with a disease or anything. It's got to do with an injury. The way this fish has been acting, I'm sure it's spawning behavior. And due to that aggression, it may literally have just banged its face into something and scraped it on a rock, and it might have a bit of an injury or a little bit of an infection going on. I'm not really sure what that is, but I don't think it is anything to do with typically what you would think of with Popeye disease, which is the eyes pop out due to internal osmotic pressure. The water pressure inside their body gets to be too much, and it literally makes their eyes bug out. And I don't think that's what's going on. It might be bugging out from something else, that's not necessarily good. I don't know if it's going to heal or not, but I'm not too worried about it at this point. The only other thing I want to say is my sweet potato here. Loving the roots that we're getting off of this, but this is the one that's coming all the way down from up here, and the main body is rooted in up here. So all those roots you're seeing hanging down, again, all these roots right here, all these white roots hanging down, that's all the sweet potato vine. My daylilies are done. I need to get in there and start trimming those stems off of them. This crazy wacky plant, whatever this stuff is supposed to be, was supposed to get flowers on it. I don't know when it gets flowers on it. I don't know if I need to reduce the hours of daylight or what in order to, simulate the autumn. I'm not really sure what gets that one going as far as flowering goes. But I am starting to get the aphids building back up, and so we're going to have to get in here. I don't know if I'm going to do it tonight. As I said, I didn't really plan on being in here as long as I've been in here. But I do need to get in here and do some more spraying for aphids, and that, of course, means another massive water change. And once we're done that, I don't know, we'll see. So, all right, everybody. I'm losing my train of thought here. As I said, it's got other things on my mind tonight, so we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this trip around the world. Make sure you're subscribed. Don't forget, this one, of course, is my waterfall tank. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you real soon on the next one.